All right, Team New Zealand's, God, isn't that interesting? I hate to lose. Team New Zealand CEO Grant Dalton speaking to me in 2011. And that full interview is up on our website, frontpage.co.nz. Dalton talked there about technology being an integral part of the America's Cup, and indeed, it's what won the regatta for Oracle, isn't it? The Cup is a showcase for the best boating technology, and New Zealand innovation has played an enormous role in this, obviously. Core Builders are the team behind Oracle's amazing boat and success, and based just north of Auckland and Warkworth. They're welcome to co-construction manager Tim Smyth, and Lance Wiggs, a venture capitalist who's about to launch a new fund to invest in our high-tech, internet and design-led businesses. Welcome, both of you, to the program.
Thank you.
Tim, firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. You know, obviously a great New Zealander who's built something astonishing. What did you do to that boat?
Oh, lots of little things, really. I can know one thing. As you know, we spent a lot of time off the water after our various incidents, the capsize, for example, and we didn't get the time on the water that Team New Zealand did, so we had a lot of catch-up to do. And, of course, we lost one of our key wing trimmers towards the end, and I think a couple of combinations there made us take a fresh look at how we trimmed our wind sail.
There's thousands of New Zealanders that are asking, maybe millions of New Zealanders that are asking, how could you go from a couple of knots behind in boat speed, 30, 40 seconds behind at the end of these early races, to 30, 40, 50 minute in front at the end, another 3 or 4 knots ahead. Remarkable turnaround.
Foiling up wind.
I mean, how did you do that?
Well, we're all doing it. It's just not always efficient. When you foil up wind, you need to have your foil immersed in the water. You need to have your boat trim well, cocked, your balance, and it takes a while. It takes a bit of practice.
But you did something after that postponement card, which made you
the wing trim.
Yes, yeah. So much more efficiently.
Yeah, there was a combination of things. There was a wing trim. Russell has pretty much said what we did, and he's pretty much hit it on the nail. The stability system that we'd already had for quite a while. It had improved our sailing, but it certainly wasn't the single one thing behind what improved our upwind performance.
So you tweaked it to make it better?
I think the wing trim, the drive on the boat, the way we trimmed the way the rudders were set up and the wings, the drag there. A whole bunch of little things. I don't want to say, it's just a bunch of little things.
Is it hard to beat New Zealand, given you're a New Zealander living in Warkworth, working for Larry Ellison? Do you find it difficult?
No, in the sense I'm a member of the large diaspora of New Zealanders who practice our craft overseas and have done for a long, long time. And there's many of us over there building boats, sailing boats, doing all sorts of things in the marine industry. And it began for us, I think, about 13 years ago when we first went to the States to build the boats for Larry Ellison. I joined the team in 2000, and we were initially in Ventura, California, but we were very drawn to a new technology that was making waves in the game, and this was large CNC machines, and they had the ability to...
So you knew you had it on, you knew you had the wood on New Zealand as long as you fine-tuned it and could sail it properly?
How do you mean?
Well, you knew what you had on board that boat that was better than New Zealand's, but you just needed to master it on the water. Is that what you're telling me today?
Yes, I was starting to tell you about how we got into the technology game that we brought back to New Zealand, and we were motivated to build our boat in New Zealand because it's got a very strong, productive talent base of composite people. Most of them are overseas. I've been employing New Zealanders and other people to build these boats overseas for a long, long time, and we perceived that so many of them were becoming New Zealanders that why not come back and be closer to them in New Zealand, employ them in New Zealand rather than employ them overseas.
Yeah, because this is the success story, isn't it? This is New Zealand. I mean, you guys are world beaters. This technology and success that you have brought to the table is remarkable.
It is no single one technology point that you're talking about, but it's definitely the technology that we started to employ down here revolves around digital manufacturing, if you like, and I see tremendous applications for it, not just in marine industry. In fact, I'd like to talk about not race boats and not marine industry, but I'd like to talk about the composites industry, and I think New Zealanders are particularly talented at manipulating composites. Now, that was given birth to...
What does that mean to people? What does that mean to people? Explain that.
Well, it was given birth by the marine industry. They adopted composites early on because it builds such a better, lightweight, non-corrosive boat, and you can mass produce them, and you can employ all sorts of amazing designs and concepts using composites. And some of the most innovative companies in New Zealand, guys, Cookson's Yachts, Southern Spars. I mean, look at Kilwell. They were winding fiberglass tubes 40 years ago.
When people, and we need to accept that a lot of people aren't yachties and boaties and don't know about this, what is a composite?
Well, they are fishermen, for example. New Zealanders love to fish. That thing that you hold and wheel the fish in,
yes,
that's made of composite.
Right. And so this technology that you have been able to bring to Oracle, has Team New Zealand got that as well?
Yes, to a degree.
To a degree, and that interests me when you say to a degree, because you're ahead of them, aren't you, in that game?
Well, I think New Zealand could have invested more in some of these large machines that we've been able to invest in. For example, we've invested in a very large milling machine, biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, and we needed to do that because we wanted to build our foils in a certain way. What we've done is we've integrated CNC manufacture not just into building the tools into which you build composite parts, but also into the production of the parts themselves.
But that interests me, your early comment there. New Zealand could have invested more. How much more would we have had to have spent to match you at that high level end, and who could have done it in New Zealand?
Well, the milling machine is about as much as a beach house. So we've invested lots of money in beach houses up and down the country.
So you're talking $1 million?
Yeah.
Lance, you're sort of giggling and laughing at this. I need to ask you why when we're talking about investing at this end.
It's the beach house analogy. We invest billions of dollars in beach houses and houses. We are selling Meridian electricity, sucking billions of dollars out of the economy as well. And we're just not investing enough into the sector that the Minister talked about earlier, this high-tech sector. So what these guys did is fantastic, right? So they have machines that carve out shapes, and then you put this carbon fibre stuff on top of it with resin, and you make new products, right? You can take that technology from yachting and apply it across everything: household appliances, bicycles, lots of different stuff.
Because I read some of your stuff this week, and you were talking about the fact we ran an exemplary campaign, but then we stood still as Oracle went past us. You were quite critical of that bit.
I wasn't critical. It's just what it was. So Oracle. The insider word that I heard a few weeks ago is that Oracle's boat was of actually a very high quality build, and I guess that was you guys, and well done. Not that we weren't, and not that our guys didn't do exactly the same as you guys, which is the continuous improvement all the way through.
So how do we leverage that now? And where do we leverage that to now in our economy? So how do we build on this? This is a $700 million export business, okay, in New Zealand. How do we not lose that momentum, even though we've lost this America's Cup?
Okay, well, here you go. Everyone talks about the marine industry being depressed because there's not enough boats to build. Well, boating, I'm sorry, it's a very cyclical game, and we talk about sailing being a rich man's sport, etc., etc. Well, so is super yachts. There's more money in a super yacht bathroom than there is in one of our foils, for example. But everyone focuses on some of these big expensive items. They ooh and ah because they think they're so expensive. But there is technology in there, and this technology of combining these high strength fibres and resins into what we do. Think of the applications for them. Well, here's one for you: the Skypath Bridge. I can talk about this. We've proposed a composite solution for the Skypath Bridge. It's by no means done and dusted, but it's there, and it's been put forward as for the Innovation Awards.
So you're saying, and Lance, you're on board with this, we can take this technology and what we've learned out of the America's Cup into all these other industries now, and not lose this momentum.
But it's not just this particular technology. There's a raft of these things across the board, and it's not just the technologies themselves, it's how they did it. So the folks that have been working on all of these teams, and New Zealand permeates all of the teams, they're elite, not just in terms of sportsmen, but in terms and women, but in terms of how they do business, how they develop, how they continuously improve things, and then with Oracle, how they disruptively stopped and then really changed the direction and continuously improved.
That was brilliant there. But how do we in New Zealand now harness this so we're not just producing logs down at the wharf, that we have 10 core boat builders, and that they're in avionics and they're in everything else?
So let's invest in the sector. So I'm raising a fund. We close on Wednesday, called Punakaki Fund. And, we're only looking for $15 million. It's trivial compared to the amount of money that even the Minister just talked about, $32 million. But let's stop thinking about electricity and those sorts of companies and start investing in the future sector.
Is the government doing enough? You heard Stephen Joyce here this morning, because I asked him then, he said, we'll do what we continue to do. Is that good enough?
Look, the government's actually doing a pretty good job with the business growth agenda. They're trying really hard across a number of fronts. NZTE is reinventing itself. Callaghan is reinventing itself. There's some very good stuff happening. And it's not the government's job. It's the job of businesses, it's the job of us. I think we need to stand up and lift our aspirations somewhat and say, is it okay just to sort of grow a little bit and then sell out? Or do we want to do the Rod Drury thing and actually grow these billion-dollar businesses?
And what sort of interest have you had?
Well, it's pretty strong. And so we're going for the Paul Callaghan vision. And this is the table stakes here. The table stakes is $40 billion of high-tech exports that Paul Callaghan,
I've seen that, yes.
talked about, right? That's what we need to go for. So we shouldn't be thinking incrementally about, how do we get to next year? We should be thinking, as Oracle did, they saw the writing on the wall and they said, we need to change stuff up a lot, otherwise we're going to lose. So we're the same. We need to change stuff up a lot in New Zealand, accelerate and think about the 20-year plan, which is $40 billion worth.
And do you see, I know you have your plan, but do you see a plan in New Zealand for this?
We have a plan. We have a plan to...
But do you see a wider New Zealand Inc. plan? Are you interested in that?
I am. I think, but it needs, like lots of these new developments, new industries, often there's a development curve. You're not going to make money on the first one, the first two that you do. You need a pet project to do. So if I was the government, I've been thinking about, what my pet love is composites, obviously. I'd love to see them promulgate an idea for the sky path, this composite bridge. The marine industry, which is currently depressed at the moment, could be redeployed into using the same skills that they already have, good composite skills. We know how to bend fibre into high-strength structures that can support bridges, for example. Look at composite bridges. No rusting.
Auckland needs this with you.
Seismic reinforcing. You can reinforce all these seismic buildings with composites. It's been done right now. It's not necessarily been done by the marine industry. It amazes me that it's the construction industry leading the charge and employing seismic reinforcing on these buildings without consulting much with the boat building industry.
And I think we've learned something here today. We are rebuilding New Zealand's second largest city in Christchurch. We have a problem with a third harbour crossing here in Auckland. You're telling me that you have the answers. And Lance, but what you're telling me is there are some answers in the marine industry, and we need to talk.
We need to talk. We need to. Callaghan again talked about us being good at everything else. So we need to, I think, just promote everything that we can, and what Stephen Joyce talked about earlier with going off to Asia and to San Francisco and promoting New Zealand per se is good. But inside New Zealand, we need to, we can't sort of say, let's pick an industry or two. We need to just do a full court press here and push the button on everything at once. It's difficult. But
wouldn't it be best not to focus on what we do well?
Focus on what we have a competitive advantage in.
Sure, we do, but who knew we had an advantage in composites 20 years ago?
Well, you did.
Right? Yeah, I think it's pretty, like I said, Kilwells was one of the first people to bring industrial composites to the market over 40 years ago. They revolutionised the fishing. They're a fantastic company.
Do you see New Zealand companies being able to compete with what you're doing? I know you're a New Zealand company owned by Larry Ellison.
I see all of Asia right next to us, and they don't know how to manipulate these materials. They soon will. I've got about 6 guys in my factory who have been up and worked in China, teaching them how to build boats.
And that interests me. Shouldn't we be having billions of dollars of orders around composites and so forth out of New Zealand through Asia? Isn't that?
No, I'm sure we could be happily sending off composite pedestrian bridges to Asia, something like that. It's just an example.
Can I ask a question of you, Tim? It's a question many New Zealanders are asking. Were there big bonuses chucked in front of your builders and you guys in the lead up to this final?
No. There's no bonuses. There's no bonuses in our factory. There are some members of the team that get bonuses. They're generally the long-served ones, the key members. There'll be bonuses. Like any sports team, they'll have bonuses for. I'd love to think that the guys in our factory floor would get a bonus, but
do you know if they did for winning this race?
Oh, of course not. We pay the wages. We came down to New Zealand to set up to be a. Larry is very tight with his money. It's once he gives the money over, it's audited every year by KPMG, and it's very strictly controlled. It's totally accountable. Our books are pretty much open, to the extent that any company has its books open. I think we're very competitive with what we do.
There are all sorts of suggestions of $250,000 bonuses in front of 10 of your boat builders.
So I'm just gobsmacked that. This is what amazes me about the media these days. I guess it's because of social media that so much of this hearsay creeps into quite respectable shows like this. I'm surprised that you would think such a thing is true.
Well, it's my job to ask this question.
But I mean, I could pull out all sorts of weird and wonderful rumours off the internet and I wouldn't think of repeating them.
But it's just...
If I could break in, money is not a motivator. It's a nice to have. It can be demotivational if you don't have enough, but it's not why people do this. People did this across all of the teams because they want to win, because they're at the leading edge of technology, because they have a chance
But did we lose because we didn't have enough money?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe a little bit extra would help, but it's not it's a money game, sure, and there are table stakes, but it's. Let's not forget, by the way, that Tim's company is in New Zealand. This money came to New Zealand.
Look, the one reason why it's a money game these days is it became that way in 2000 roughly when sailors became professional. So it's all about sailors' salaries.
I'm not taking anything away. I congratulate you. I think you're brilliant. I think you've done a fantastic job, and you should be held up as one of the best in the world, in fact, if not the best.
Well, it's not me. There's a whole bunch of people.
Well, your team.
But they're New Zealanders, and they're New Zealanders that were plying their trade overseas. It's a small country here.
No, we need many more of you in New Zealand, don't we? Companies like this.
We'll lure people back, but we've got to provide the jobs for them, exciting jobs.
The companies are actually here already. They're small, perhaps. Some of them are large, some of them are small. And I think it's not so much when they come back, let's not provide them jobs, let's help them start businesses, let's help them join existing businesses, right?
I appreciate both your time this morning. I don't mean to offend you with that question, but it's a question so many New Zealanders have on the end of their tongue, so I appreciate it.
They're searching too many diverse blog sites in my mind.
Maybe they're disappointed they didn't win the America's Cup. I certainly appreciate you coming into the studio as well with you, Lance. Thank you to Tim Smyth, of course, co-construction manager for Core Builders and investment fund manager Lance Wicks.